And I don't want to keep y'all away from the kids too long. Look at this. I wish y'all were here because I brought my black girl magic. You know why? Because we up here with the black girl. Look at all these bosses. So I want to go ahead and get it started. Thank y'all for coming tonight. Thank you guys for joining us. I really, again, just wanted to have some good dialogue tonight and just have some fun. I'm tired of being in the house this pandemic. I just wanted to get my girls together and have some fun. So we're going to ask some questions. We're going to all just really try to learn from each other, glean from each other, and we can get some best practices about how you do this thing. Because I'm going to be honest, being a mommy, a wife, owning a business, it's just a lot. Having a career, being active in your community. We already talked about all these people in sororities and links and isn't that. Balancing it all is a lot. And I just feel like it's really good to just talk to other people and say, girl, how do you do it? Give me some best practices. We don't have all the answers. We won't pretend like we do tonight, but we're going to just talk about some things that we do and in hopes that we can help share and maybe we can all learn this thing together. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to kick it off with the first question. I'm going to ask, who do I want to ask first? Let me think. I'm going to go to Dr. Tiff R first. So, Tiff R, I'm going to ask you, how do you prioritize your family and managing a successful business? You have 3 practices. You're busy, busy, busy. How do you manage it all? You have twins, my God. How do you do it?
Well, my favorite phrase is you can have it all, just not all at one time. And, I think family support is really important. Leaning on family, that's the only thing. Like, the next step is moving my mom up here from Florida. But until then, I have my brother, I have my husband, we have, just oodles of help to do that. We talked about number one, starting off. I think before we were recording, we talked about starting the day off with taking care of you first, right? Getting up at 4:30 morning, 5:30 morning in my case, and go ahead and paying those taxes. Mm-hmm. And taxes, I mean working out. And so, working out makes you feel better, gives you more energy. I mean, we know the benefits of it. It is tiring, we hate it, but like taking care of yourself first is the only way you're going to take care of everybody else.
That's so,
right. That's my secret to it. Just balancing that, and you start that day off. You can't go back to sleep after that. After you've like really worked out, so everything else just kind of falls in lines. Write down what you need to do for the day, and then go for the day. Just be productive.
Yes, and when you move your mama up, can I borrow her too? Because your mom is so fabulous. So great advice. I met Dr. Tiff's mom when we were both big, wobbling around, pregnant. Remember that, Tiff? Mm-hmm. And she is super fly. So Tiff gets it honestly from her mama. She gets it from her mama. So, but that's great advice, Tiff. Thank you for sharing. All right, so I'm going to ask another question, and I'm going to ask this one from Operation Sexy Body. Because let me tell y'all, she's my hero. On the days I just don't feel like working out, I just go to her Instagram and be like, what will Lynnette do? Lynnette work out. So get your butt up in there and look at her Operation Sexy Body, okay? So her body is so fabulous. And I love Lynnette's story. She'll tell you her story, I guess, one day. But she talks about she wasn't always fit and fabulous. She always worked out, but it didn't come easy. And I think that's the testimony of a lot of women. It's like, I work out, I've had these babies, and I don't see a change. I don't see my body changing. I don't see an alteration coming. But I'm working out, and some of us are working out, and some of us, eating the Krispy Kreme donuts and working out the jaws. But regardless, we don't see the change, right? And I just want to ask you, Doctor, Operation. I keep saying doctor because we had all these doctors.
Maybe I need to go back to school. I'm saying you calling me doctor.
I feel lonely that I'm not a doctor up here with all these doctors. But anyway, I just want to ask you, sexy body, how do you create balance in your life? Like, you working out. I always see you like creating these healthy meals with the kids. I love how you bring them in as a part of, healthy meal prep. So those girls know already at 3. And for Sky, already talking about make healthy food choices, and so tell us, how do you create balance in your life?
Well, I think balance is a fancy word for priorities. And I love what Dr. Tiff R said about you can have everything, just not at once. And it's so true. I think we as like wives and moms, even if you're not a wife or a mom, you're just busy or you have goals and dreams and aspirations, you feel like you're looking at somebody's highlight reel on social media and feeling less than. And you try to do all these things that aren't in line with your purpose. And so you begin to go down these paths of just doing stuff either because it's easy and you're good at it, but that's not what God designed you to do. So for me, I create balance in ignoring the things that are not in alignment with my. People will ask you to do things, people will call you when it's convenient for them. People will send you an email when it's convenient for them, and you feel a sense of I have to do it right now, but it's really about prioritizing goals for the day. So what I do at night before I go to bed is I write down everything that I want to do the next day so I can get it off my brain. I write down everything I want to do. I prioritize it one, two, three. Never put too many things on your plate because that's another part of a problem that we do. We try to do everything all at one time. And so things that are really important is so big that we can't even start doing it. So we don't start doing it, or we open up all these cans and have all these like cans open and never really finish anything. And but then that's the mark, like, oh, I'm the master, I'm all trades and the master. No, 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 that's not how you create balance in your life. So I say all that to say you have to prioritize. I write what I want to do next day. I go to sleep, I get a good night's sleep, I wake up, I work out. That's the first thing I do is I always say get up, get active, and do something for yourself. I always start the day off with an intention. I do my meditation, I work out, I give something to myself. So I'm ready for my husband and my kids when they wake up. That's a priority for me to make sure that I'm whole so that I can give a piece of me to them. So from 8 a.m. until 8 or 9 p.m., I'm else's. So balance is all about prioritizing, giving yourself some grace to do things. And if you don't get everything done, it's fine. Just move it on to the next day.
Mm. I love that. Give yourself grace. We don't
Yeah,
do that enough.
we
As
don't.
women, I think we are so hard on ourselves. I mean, we are constantly worrying about managing our businesses, managing our careers, managing the family
Hmm.
and our children. And I don't think we give ourselves grace. I know for me, I am the hardest on myself,
Yeah.
and I think, I'm looking at myself like, you got to do better. But then you take a step back and you really do have to give yourself grace. So I love that, Dr. Lynnette. I'm going to call
You claiming that.
Dr. Lynnette. That's your new name.
Come in 2036.
No, you the body doctor. So I'm going to call you Dr. Lynnette from now on.
I like
All right.
that.
So speaking of doctors, Dr. Chris, I want to ask you, Chris, when you put yourself first, what does that look like? Like, how do you take care of yourself? And I'm asking you that, Chris, because Krystal runs a construction business, which is, heavily male dominated, heavily white male dominated, has been very successful. Krystal is a doctor, a pharmacist, doing all that. And by the way, I need some drugs. Krystal is a coach. She coaches not just anybody. She coaches boss women, CEOs who are running large, multi-million dollar companies and helps them create success. So I'm asking Chris, what does it look like when you put yourself first? Because I do think when I look at all the folks that she's coaching, all the CEO women that she's coaching and how they're able to keep excelling. When you think they're already at the top of their game, and then Chris gets to them and then they're like, I'm making more millions. I don't know how you do it, but so Chris, I think I got to come to you on this one. So how do you put yourself first? What does that look like when you put yourself first? And how do you take care of yourself? And how do you help your clients take care of themselves as well?
Yeah, I think putting yourself first starts with understanding who you are, right? Understanding who you were created to be, understanding what your purpose is, and then following through on that purpose. I think putting yourself first is setting standards for what you make yourself available for. It is setting boundaries for what's not acceptable to you. And I think it is really knowing like what I think a lot of women in particular feel like I have a different take on having it all, right? To me, in God's abundant economy, it is possible for me to have it all. I just need to define what that looks like. And having it all looks different for everybody, right? So it's not trying to do all the things, it's deciding what's essential, what's important, what aligns with your purpose, and then doing those things. So for me, having it all means I'm able to help my clients. I'm able to be the wife I was called to be. I'm able to be the mom I was called to be. And I show up in the world the way that I was created to. So for me, that is having it all. For me, that is self-care and showing up for myself and just being very clear on this is my purpose and everything I do needs to align with that. So that means I say no to things that don't align with my purpose. That means that I cut things loose. And as we all get older, we know some friends, some opportunities, you gotta like move on, right? And as you grow, sometimes friends don't come with you, right? And as you elevate, and a lot of my clients, like, it's not that they're already successful, right? They already have such great success, but it's like, how do I get to this next level without hustling, without like trying to take all this extra stuff on? And the way you do that is by defining from the jump, this is who I am. And I show up this way everywhere, defining what kind of mom you want to be, what kind of wife, right? And then you show up as that person regardless of what the other people are doing, right? I have a lot of clients that are wives, and it's like, you decide how you want to show up as a wife. And then regardless of what he does, as long as he's not, you know, all the way out of pocket, right? You show up that way and you stand in integrity to who you were called to be, and you honor yourself that way. That is self-care to me. Going to the spa is great, but when you can manage your mind and show up in the world in a way that you were purposed to do, to me, that is self-care.
Look, Dr. Lynnette, I had to go give him an amen on that one. That's my, I had to go to the first one. I'm going to say this about Krystal. You know, y'all know like it's the wine, but I want to say this about Krystal.
It's not the wine.
I have known
Bonika.
Krystal. I met all of these ladies when I was blessed to move to Atlanta in 2015. I met all of them, and all of them are my dear friends. Like, I love these women. And I can say about each one of them, they are all true. They are all, you gonna get the real. Like, none of them shoot around, beat around the corner, beat around the bush. They're all honest, which is why I wanted all of them to be together, because this is no nonsense. So ask questions like, this is a no nonsense, but I want to tell you about Krystal. She is true to who she is. Like, since I've known her for 6 years now, 7 years, she's the same Krystal, very consistent about, look, girl, you got to show up. You got to be who you want to be. Like, how do you want to show up and show up that way? Like, don't let somebody take you off kill. Like, she's always been that, which is now why she's my coach, because, you know, sometimes you want to choke them, like your husband. And she's like, how do you want to show up? You can't let somebody take you off course. And I just love that about her. She's an amazing coach, because the truth of the matter is, when you go to the office and when you go to, you know, you're in front of your employees, or you are in front of, you know, you're facilitating, you're having a large audience. A lot of these women are speakers. You know, you can show up any kind of way, depending on somebody, if they, you know, came at you the wrong way. If you walked out the house and your husband acting crazy, or the kids are not doing what they need to do, you can show up in a way, in a manner that does not become who you want to be, who does not portray who you want to be. And so I love the fact that Chris is always like, and every time we're in our coaches, how do you want to show up? I don't care what they did. I don't want to hear about what happened at work. I don't want to hear about what happened with the deal that didn't go well. How do you want to show up, Bonika, and stay true to that? And so I just love that about Chris. She's always been that way, and she's an amazing coach. I'm not putting on a plug, but if you need a coach, she's an amazing coach, and she shoots you real, and she gives it to you straight, no chaser, and that's how you need it if you want an effective coach. Now, speaking the truth, like, if you really want to get it raw, Dr. Tiff H is the one that's going to give it to you raw. Like this, I love Dr. Tiff H. I want y'all to, we have had some times together, haven't we, Tiff? But
I won't even
Tiff
talk about it,
will give
Bonika.
to you straight. You'll be like, okay, I need a drink to get it from you, Tiff, because I know you're gonna hurt my feelings.
This
But
is a lot of pressure,
if
Bonika.
honest,
This is a
if
lot
you
of
want
pressure.
what you say, Tiff?
This is a lot of pressure.
I'm sorry, but Tiff, that's who you are. Like that's who you, straight no chaser. So, but what I want to ask you, Dr. Tiff H, is, you know, one thing I love about you, Tiff, is you're authentic to yourself as well. I like the fact that, you know, in this pandemic, like, you know, I've been watching you, girl, and you have been, I feel like you have kept balance by creating a regimen. Like, I love how you're consistent about your, you know, you're planting your garden. This girl has built a whole garden. I mean, like with 2x4s. I never seen a woman build, like, I mean, and I know you in the construction industry, but I never seen you with a 2x4, like, you know, building.
Never will.
Like, I haven't built.
Never will.
Yeah, like that's just, I never seen you do that. Like, I don't think I ever seen you in a hard hat. But anyway, Dr. Tiff H, on the other hand, she got 2x4s. I'm like, they know her by name at Home Depot. She is like building.
Yeah.
Y'all need to go to her Instagram for real.
It happens.
Okay?
It happens.
But I see what I love about that, Tiff, though, is the regimen. Like, I see you are disciplined in your regimen. Like, you about that, you know. And I see you not only like that with the garden, but I see you like that with so many other things. And Dr. Tiff does not just give advice on sex; she gives advice on relationships and managing your life and all of those great things. So I want to ask you, Tiff, you know, what is your daily regimen that you have that helps you maintain balance, stay fulfilled? Like, what does that look like? Because I do feel like you, one thing about you, out of all my, you discipline, you're regimented, you're like, you know, you're going to beat somebody if you have to. Like, that's how you are. So what does that look like? What does a daily regimen look like? What's healthy when, you know, when you think about relationships and how we talked about showing up as your best self.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what does that look like in a regimen, discipline kind of way? Because I think that's where you get real success if you can implement consistency. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do know what you're saying. And I'm so glad, I'm getting an echo. I'm so glad that it appears the way that it appears. And, you know, that's kind of the gift and the curse of Instagram and all of our social medias, right? Obviously, I post one picture, but it took me 6 hours to edit that thing down and post it for it to appear as though I have things together, when the reality is it takes a lot of work and a lot of planning. So one of the things that Bonika mentioned was this whole, like, I have a thing going on outside of my house that really did begin as part of the quarantine and as a result of the pandemic. And the beauty of it and the magic of it is that it's something that I have planned out in my head over the course of the last year, almost 2 years. And so I think that that's one of the things that we have to think about when we're talking about, you know, how to have it all, how to create balance, how to, you know, find the peace that you want. It's not something that just happens in your life. It's not something that, you know, is really magical. It's something that we really have to work towards and plan for. And some days are better than others. Some days I just don't get to go outside and build something or put my hands in the dirt or garden or, you know, cook healthy meals or whatever it is that really makes me happy. Some days I just don't get to do that. But I do have to, when I want to do that, I have to make room for it. I have to plan for it. I have to, and that's a fancy way of saying prioritizing, right? We have to say, okay, what is important to me? How am I going to get it done? But not only that, what do I need in order to make that happen? Who can advocate for me? Or how can I advocate more for myself? Who can help me out? One of the things that my other Dr. Tiff here mentioned is this village, this tribe that helps her. She cannot be, and none of us can be, you know, the doctors and the wives and the, you know, the employees or the bosses that we are without a team of people, without other people that want to see us win, without other people that will support us, without other people who will step in the gap and say, no, don't worry about it. I'm going to go pick up the kid, or no, don't worry about it. I'm going to stop and get this so you don't have to stop doing what you're doing. I think in order to create that sense of wellness, that sense of balance. We have to, one, prioritize it. We have to advocate for ourselves to be able to have that. And then we have to just go get it and not let anything get in the way of that. It's very easy for us as women to say, okay, I'll push my own plans to the side so that I can take care of this for someone else. We're not really doing ourselves favors though when we do that. I think it's just as important for us to get the things done that we need to get done, to cross things off of our own to-do lists, so that they're not hanging over our head. We end up with a mile-long to-do list day after day because we've allowed other people's priorities and other people's goals to come before ours. And it's just not okay. Not in 2021. We're not doing that anymore. So from this point forward, what we have to do is prioritize our own health, our own wellness, our own happiness, and find those little pockets of time. One of the things that I encourage people to do, whatever it is, right? A lot of people are coming to me, right, for sex advice, right? So I'll get the question oftentimes about, and this is not a sex conversation. I see you drinking your wine, Bonika. I'll have individuals that will say, how can I prioritize sex more? I want to have sex more. I want to have a better romantic relationship. These are things that, and this is, as much as people don't like to schedule things, and I'm not saying that you should schedule sex. What I am saying though is anything in your life that is important to you, you schedule it. And by scheduling, I mean, if you have a doctor's appointment, how do you remember it? You put it in your phone, you write it down, you get the appointment card and write, when the appointment is, because you want to remember. If your kid has a soccer game, it goes up on that little board by the refrigerator so that everybody remembers it, because you want to make it there. You want to be there. You want to show up for them. So anything else that is important to you, even if it's like finishing up a book that you want to read, if it's going to get a pedicure, if it's having sex with your husband, whatever it is, go ahead and put those things in your calendar, put those reminders down, make sure you make a note of it, because those are things that are important to you, that you want to show up, not just the stuff for everybody else, but the things that you really do want to do for yourself. And that's really how you prioritize and make it look as though, right, you are winning this game called life and doing all the things that you need to do. I'm not perfect at it. Like I said, I will make you think that on the gram, but in reality, those raised beds took me a minute to make, but I made them. But I also planned for them. I prioritized them. I researched, I shopped, I learned how to use a drill. Before December, I did not own a drill. Wow. So I didn't own a drill.
That is impressive.
But we figure it out.
Like, I was like,
we figure it out.
Dr. T, so
yes,
I need to push you a little bit. Okay, so
yes, please.
Scheduling sex thing.
Yeah, it's not for everybody. It's not a recommendation that I make for everybody.
Well, no. But let's talk about the tactical part of that. Like, I can't schedule my vagina to get wet. So, what? I hear that, because you go to marriage counseling. I've been married for 8 years now, right? Mm-hmm. So,
and now you have 2 little babies
or whatever. Yeah. And sex life goes through.
Yeah, sure.
So, but people schedule it, and I'm just like, but that's, we grew up watching Cinderella and stuff like that. Like, there's this romantic air about sex that we've just been cultured to think. Right. And then we see, animals who just go for it, right? Like, that seems
right. We don't work that way. Our vaginas don't work that way.
Yeah.
Our vaginas don't work that way.
This scheduling piece is very drying to me. So I don't tactically, how is scheduling and my JJ work out? I don't get it.
Right. So the thing that we have to, and this is not, I'm going to make this kind of universal. You and I can talk offline about how this would actually work out. But the bigger piece is sex happens 100%, and especially in your case, happens well before you ever enter the bedroom. Mm-hmm. Right. So when you walk in the house, and I don't know what, what everybody's tasks are, but let's say you walk into the house, right? And you've had a long day at work, kids are running in at you, husband is asking like, what's for dinner? What are we going to do? We've got this going on and that going on, and all of these worries, not to mention, let's pile on, some other business matter maybe that you brought home with you. The last thing you're thinking about, even if it is already on the calendar, right, is sex, because you've got all of these other things. But then let's take a separate day, right, where you come in and you've already got a babysitter planned, or somebody coming in to pick up the kids, so you don't even have to worry about it. Or you've already had 2 or 3 days off, so you're super relaxed already. It's not like your first day off, because that first day off, we really just want to be by ourselves. You don't have to worry about dinner. You don't have to worry about something in the washing machine that needs to go to the dryer. You don't have, we have to think about all of these things ahead of time. The other thing that I think is important, and these are very generalizations, they're not specific to you or anyone that's on this talk. Women tend to need to have more of an emotional connection in order to want sex, whereas men need the physical connection in order to feel love, is what I'm talking about. So women need to have more of the emotional connection in order to want sex and to make love, or to want to do that, whereas men tend to need the sex in order to feel closer. It's really important for our partners to know where their partner is in that kind of cycle. And so with sex therapy or any type of couples counseling, if I don't know what it is that turns you on or off, because there's oftentimes things that your partner could be doing or not doing that inhibits the vagina from getting as moist as it needs to in that time. So we need to figure out all of those things, not just, okay, it's on the calendar, we're supposed to do it. Because if you have left your dirty drawers laying across this bedroom and they've been there for a week, I don't care about it being on the calendar, right? I need you to pick that shit up.
Exactly.
Right? You know what I mean? Or if, I'm super stressed and I have 5,000 things, and here you come asking me for another thing. I got a baby on this titty. And so, you know what I mean? Like, I just don't feel like it. But if you're freeing up my plate, if you're doing the things that I need done so that I have time to relax, so that I have time to do me, so that I have time to really connect to myself and get the things done that I want to get done on my to-do. I have all the room, time, attention, and wetness for you.
I think we need a man in the room. We need the men to be in here so they can hear this. They need to understand this.
So I hope that answers your question. But we
really,
can talk some more offline.
On the calendar all day long, but if you work that last nerve.
No, I just hear a lot of people say scheduling, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, scheduling is one of those things. Scheduling is great when you have people who want to have sex, never think about it, and there's no real issue going on there. But what I find is when couples aren't having sex, and it becomes more of a biological, a social, or a psychological issue that's inhibiting it, then it doesn't matter really how often you schedule it. If I have anxiety around sex, or I have some sort of sexual trauma, or if I'm on medications that's causing me not to have sexual desire or making me dry, it doesn't matter whether I schedule it, those things are still going to be there. So we need to figure out where the loophole is so we can fill it, so that we can fill the other hole too.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay, that was awesome. That was awesome. Thank you, Dr. Tiff.
You're welcome.
So we have a question from one of our Zoom participants, Reese. She's asking, and any one of our panelists can answer this question. She's asking, a lot of you women, amazing women, talked about purpose. And she says, how do you find your purpose? She's heard several of you talk about this, but a lot of people don't know their purpose or their gifts. So how do you guys suggest you find your purpose? Anybody want to answer that one?
Well, I think you just have, so you know, you can get, you got, your purpose is what you get an A at, right? Like you can't get an A in everything. You might get a B plus here, but I think when people, it's kind of like Instagram pages, right? Like those Instagram pages that don't like have a theme to them. They're just like all over the place. Like they don't get a lot of traction, but um, it's like, hey, I'm going to be a great mom. I'm going to be Tiger Mom, or I'm going to be a great businesswoman, or I'm going to be a great mom, and I'm a great wife, and I'm going to lean on that. And like whatever you decide to lean on, like I think it's a decision. Like I mean, for me, it started with a vision board, but it's a decision to say, I'm going to get an A in this category and forget all these other categories. I'm going to get an A in this. Like, so like for me, you know, the moms that like come to school with like the great Valentine's Day gifts, like I'm not that mom, you know, and I'm okay with that. Right. Like they come with all like I mean, they don't do cupcakes anymore, but like my kid, I'm shamed when they come home with these like really good Valentine's Day cards that were like handmade. I know the kids didn't make that. Like, but Tiffany Rand, are not going to be sitting at home doing Valentine's. When they get older, we're not going to have like a science project that was made by your mother. Like it's not, you're going to come with your crappy science project that you've done or whatever. So it's because I'm probably not going to be that mom, but I'm not leaning on that, right? That's not my purpose. That's not what I define for myself. So, you know, but I am a great businesswoman and I'm good at it. I'm a great doctor. I'm a great dentist. I love cosmetic dentistry or whatever. And that's something that I decided that I was going to be good at. I decided that I was going to be a businesswoman. I decided I was going to, you know, buy distressed dental practices. I decided my niche because it was something that I was number one good at, halfway good at, and it was very interesting. So whatever you decide is your purpose. Like just stick to it. And just because you may not be great at it now, you might get like a B- now, but if you just exercise that muscle and you lean into it and say like, okay, hey, everything else is I can keep at a B, C, whatever, you know, you can't fall off the wagon totally, but you know, and this is what I'm going to be, right? Like if you want to be a socialite, right? If I want, you know, whatever, you know, I'm going to be the best socialite I can be. I'm going to get into the Met Ball, like set your goals high, you know? You know, I mean, I could say all kinds of things. I mean, I know a girl who's an escort and she is the best escort that I've ever seen. And she leans into that. And there's nothing else about her but being an escort. Like I grew up with her. So that's the only reason why I know her. Don't get any ideas. So, but it's just, you got to lean into something.
Since you said that, I got a question. So one of the questions in the chat is, so you ladies are boss, is what this one said. And she said, at the age of 23, did you ladies think you would achieve the amount of success you have now? Were you scared? And so Tiff, I'm going to just, since you're already on the mic, ask you, so you talk about your purpose and you're great, you know, at your craft. You are. And that's important because, I mean, what you do is life changing. I mean, think about, I'm going to use Cardi B as an example. Yes. I mean, when she talks about when she got her grill fixed, like her life was like, like the confidence that it gave her was like amazing. And I think it took her craft to a different level because of it. So what you do is so very important. And not only doing that, but you run several businesses. So going back to our question from one of our Zoom participants, she says, did you know at the age of 20, early 20, like when did you know what you wanted to do? And did you think then that you would have the amount of success that you've achieved? Were you nervous? Were you scared? And Tiff, I'm going to start with you, but any of the other ladies can chime in too after Tiff.
So no, I didn't know. I won't know the next day. I just know I'm doing what I like. When I was, so there's a lot of questions there. So wait, what's the question again? Sorry.
So she said, at the age of 23, did you ladies think you would achieve the amount of success you have now, and were you scared?
Oh no. So I didn't know. Like I went to school in New Orleans. I had a great time. I, you know, hung out. I didn't decide to get serious about being a doctor until I was probably like the summer before my junior year. And then I got accepted to like 5 dental schools because I just decided. And that, to me, that's what my whole life is about. Like, I'm like, when I make the decision and I lean into it, usually when you lean into something, you're going to be successful because you're just plowing through everybody else who is just, who gets tired. It's just endurance, right? It's not that I'm like the smartest person in the room. It's not like I got the best grades or anything. It's just the intense focus that you have to accomplish any goal that you want. So it's just pick it and go for it and don't waver from it. I don't know if I'm going to have the same success next year, but I know I got the same drive. You know, I know I'm going to push. I know I'm not going to fail because I'm not going to let myself fail. And if I do, you know, like, I don't consider it a failure. I consider it like, oh, okay, I'm just going to go another direction. This is just a learning lesson or whatever. It's not a failure. You know, like, if you don't think of life in terms of failure, because on your resume, do you put all of your failures on it, or when people read your resume, do you put all your success on it? So, like, you know, there's like people that fail multiple times, but you don't put that on your resume. You put all your wins. Same thing with your Instagram, right? So,
speaking of Instagram, your Instagram is popping lately. Okay,
I know.
You have to call it for themes.
I know, right? So that was something that I took a PR. That was another thing, vision boarding. I took a PR class. I'm not as much in the mouth anymore. So I'm a part of this organization. It's called Dental Entrepreneurs Organization, and it's an invite only, and it's for people with multiple dental practices. And it's about transitioning from being a healthcare provider into a CEO. And so all of my cohorts in there are about that. So they're just like, hey, you know, your Instagram is your business card, is how you attract new employees, is how you attract other dentists, is how you attract, you know, patients. Like, this is your business card. Look at it as your business card. What do you represent? What do you want people to see? What are you trying to drive home about yourself and about your business? So, you know, to Tiffany's, to Dr. Tiff's point, Dr. H's point, it's like, yeah, you have this curation, you know, as an older person, you know, like, I'm not doing it for fun. I'm doing it for business. And so, like, there's hours of curating that goes into this one moment, but you're doing it so that other people can actually feel what you're giving, what you already feel inside. So it's like, whatever's inside of me and whatever I'm trying to convey, I have to figure out a creative way for you guys to see it as well. So that's what you're seeing.
Well, you have done a phenomenal job. I mean, your Instagram is popping.
Thank you.
So, thank you for that response. So another question, and then Bonika, I want to get a little before yes, Chris.
I wanted to address or to say something about Larissa's question about finding purpose. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I think is helpful when you're looking for purpose, you probably already know what your purpose is, but if you think about, and this is a question that I give my clients sometimes, right? If you think about, if I gave you $1 million and I said, you have to give this money away to 3 causes, and you think about the 3 causes that you would give the money away to, you have a heart for whatever that is. So for me, finding my purpose came about because I started realizing that there were women in the world that didn't realize their worth and what they were capable of. And it didn't look like initially something that I could do, right? So probably what your purpose is something that you're just really good at, and you just don't even think that it's something that you could do as a career. That's why I find like most women are like, yeah, I'm really good at this, but isn't everybody, right? So there are probably some things, Larissa, that you are really good at that you just feel like everybody is and they're not, right? So I would encourage you to really think about what you're passionate about, whether it's like kids or homeless, whatever that thing is, right? And then start to explore how you can work in that area, right? So for me, I've had like 3 different job changes, I've been a pharmacist and worked in construction and now a life coach. And I think it comes with you really sitting back and getting quiet and silent, and depending on what your faith is, like really start asking that question, God, what is it that you want me to do? Right? Because we got a lot of thoughts about what we should be doing, and sometimes that's not it, right? So getting really honest with yourself and asking yourself what you really want out of life and what is it that you're really good at. I didn't realize that I was good at being a life coach until I had multiple friends like call me and ask me questions and advice. And I was like, oh, I might be good at this, but this isn't like, people don't do this, right? So I would just encourage you to sit back and ask yourself, and if you are spiritual in any way, to ask God, like, what is it that you would have me to do? And then show me a path to start doing that. And that question about like, what would you give away money to it'll help you decide like what is really truly in your heart, because everybody's not purposed for the same thing, right? So Lynnette is purposed to do exactly what she's doing. I couldn't train nobody to do nothing. I'd be like, girl, just go eat the cupcake, you'll be all right. That is not my calling, right? So I think just being honest and like I said, asking yourself those questions and allowing yourself to dream, because most of us will have a big dream, but we get shut down when we start trying to think about how we'll make it a reality, right? So we have a big dream and then our brain's like, yeah, but how you gonna do that? And so then we shut it down and it's like, oh yeah, well, I probably couldn't. So just allow yourself to live in possibility. How could it be possible for you to do something that you really love doing and then go after that? I'm reading your comments too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
Can I jump in, Bonika? I wanted to say, just piggyback off of this part of the conversation. A book that really helped me out for those that are interested in books, and certainly those who are looking for things with more of a spiritual lace or component to it. One book that I found really, really helpful in kind of honing in on what that dream is called The Dream Giver by Bruce Wilkinson. What I find a lot of times is that people it's not that they don't know what their dream or purpose is, it's that they are running from their purpose. So a lot of times you're confronted with what that thing is that you're supposed to do, and you're just like going the other way and not leaning into what God has just basically like dumped in your lap several times. And he's telling you, he's showing you, he's sending people, he's offering jobs, he's doing all of the things to let you know, okay, this is why you're here. So one of the things that helped for me to get a little bit more clarity and help me to realize, and it's still a work, right? Because I also think that our purpose changes and evolves based on where we are in this life. This book really illustrates the fact that God placed this dream in your heart. And so we deny it for so many reasons. Back to the initial question that I think Larice that had about the 23-year-old. When I first started thinking about becoming a sex therapist, I was in undergrad, and I recognized that I could talk about sex in ways that just wasn't really uncomfortable for me, but it also did feel like a weird profession to kind of go after. I also noted that at that time, if I was being honest with myself at that age, and you said 23, but it was younger than that for me, I didn't necessarily have the confidence to go into television, which is what I should have done from the beginning. I don't know that I would have ever been a sex therapist, but this is where I'm supposed to be. I know that I'm supposed to be working in film and television. What in film and television? That's the key, because I've done so many different things. But if I had been honest with myself and honored that dream that was already placed in my heart, I would have done it long before. But what I recognized in reading this book was that dream has been there, and I keep going back to that dream. So no matter how many times I start a different business or go a different direction or do something else, that dream keeps pulling me back, sucking me back in. It's something that I can't deny or run from, because it's something that when I really look at it, that is a dream that has been placed in my heart by God. And no matter what happens, no matter, what iteration of my career I'm in, that dream still remains. It's there. And so I would be doing myself and God a disservice by not honoring that and at least following it up and seeing where it goes. So dig deep, figure out what that thing is for you. The book also talks about the things that get in the way of us doing it. Like I said, sometimes we run away from our dreams, or away from our purpose, but we also, we do have people in our life that are scared for us, maybe have failed at some things, that try and discourage us and tell us that, we can't do it because they couldn't do it, or because they didn't do it, or it's going to be hard, or yeah, or it's going to be expensive, or you're going to have too many student loans. There ain't nobody got more student loans than I do. So, I mean, just do it. Just do it.
That's right. We call them haters. That's what we call them.
You can't
listen, you guys, because we're talking about purpose, and that takes me to another place. But before we go there, I have to answer our question in the chat. We have one more question before I say something about purpose and transition the conversation just a tad bit. So I'm going to go to my Operation Sexy Body on this one. This question says, if you're comfortable sharing, were there ever any moments in life you just did not think you would make it through? Or how do you hold on and motivate yourself through when you're feeling like you're questioning yourself? And I want to go to you, Operation Sexy Body, but any of our other panelists, feel free to chime in on this question as well.
Yeah, I mean, to be perfectly honest, I was a late bloomer. I was the who didn't have it all together in college, didn't have it all college. I got my master's after college in professional counseling. And I really thought, to Dr. Tiff H point, your purpose changes depending on where you are in life. So I thought I was going to counsel people, and I started counseling HIV and AIDS patients, and newly diagnosed to terminal, and it was just too much. And so I was like, well, if this is not what I was supposed to do, I got all this schooling and all this education and got all these jobs and spent all these hours. Like, what am I supposed to? I spent a large amount of time questioning whether or not I should stick it out or move on. And so I went through it where I was trying to find what I was supposed to do. So Dr. Conner was talking about and figuring out what, and I didn't always work out, but that always brought me peace. And so when I would do things that brought me, it just never dawned on me that then I could transfer that peace to someone else, or to motivate them to find movement and find purpose in movement, because we feel good when we move. If we are sad, we go outside to get some vitamin D. If we working out is a stress, but it's a good stress anyway. So yeah, there were times, and I still have doubts sometimes about, am I doing the right, doing enough? And then every so often when I have those moments, God will send a message, send a random text or email or invitation to do something. And that lets me know that this is where I'm supposed to be, and this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And even though I have goals and dreams that I haven't achieved as of yet, it's okay. So that grace about earlier, I have to give myself some grace, and we have to give ourselves some grace to push ourselves and to be accomplished, and to have goals and aspirations and vision boards and dreams, and connect with people that align with purpose and being who God called us to be, but also the space to say, you know what, I'm going to get there because I have the determination. Dr. Tiff R talked about, I don't know if I'm going to be as successful as I am now, but next year, but I'm going to have the same drive. Like, that's not going to change. So you just have to really, I love that. Like, you have to make up in your mind, and success isn't a democracy. Like, there's no like success marker that you have to hit to call yourself successful. So people may look at, 3 practices, a life coaching business, film and TV, people may look at that as successful, but you may say, hey, listen, that's successful, but you ain't seen nothing yet, So you can't just allow the doubts of your mind and the quiet don't share with anyone to prevent them going to do. But yeah, to answer your question in short, I've had those moments.
Yes. Well, I want to say this. First of all, thank you for responding that way. I want to say this. When you think about purpose, it's funny how, recently I'm going to go back to that because I think that is so important and critical to us being game changers. Like knowing your purpose, and not only knowing your purpose, but living in your purpose. Like if you know that, you can be a game changer. And you're going to doubt yourself. I do agree. But then you just get a good coach like me with Dr. Chris, who will give you that stamina to keep it moving when you say, girl, I'm questioning myself. But I will say this, sometimes your purpose finds you too, because like for me, I do diversity and inclusion work. I've been doing this work for a long time. And our company, with the pandemic, with last year with the George Floyd situation, we just got a lot of business from that, right? And so, my purpose is like, doing this diversity work. And it's funny. So last year, for a lot of you guys who know me, I went through a situation with my son. He was in the hospital. He got hurt. He got shot. And for me, it's funny because my purpose kind of not changed because it's still the same, but it's shown up in a different way after the Jalen situation. And I'll tell you, that's why you guys have been seeing me like, what if this chick talk about this damn fast C movement stuff one more time? But I will tell y'all what happened was once his situation happened, and it's funny, you see black men get shot all the time. You're like, yeah. It's unfortunate. It's become so normal now. We've normalized it, right? We see it all the time. But when it happens in your own family, somebody gets hurt or shot or dealing with their situation, you're like, I have to be an advocate for change, and so for me, that's what happens with my situation. And for me, I was like, if we're going to have real power in our country, it's not going to be because we say Black Lives Matter. It's not going to be because we say we march in the street. I think that was great with Martin Luther King in the 60s, and we were marching in the streets and we had on our suits and we did our thing and we got real change. We got legislative change. We, made real movement. But right now, I feel like the only way we're going to have real change is not through marching in the streets. It's through economic power. We're going to have to change our economic power and buying power into political power. So we want people to know our lives matter. It's going to be through the financials, through the economics, right? And so for me, it's kind of changed. And all of a sudden, I've got this energy about, look, Black people, stop spending your money with these people that don't care about us in our community. Stop spending your money with, Gucci and Fendi folks that don't care about us. They put monkeys on the shirt and say the cutest little monkey in the jungle and we buying their stuff. Like, that's a problem. Don't put the little Black boy. It'd be like Tiff. They put Roro, Rohan on there in a little monkey shirt. I mean, the cutest monkey in the jungle. No, you'd be like, you put my baby in the monkey. No, you're not going to do that to me. And I'm going to keep buying your stuff. Like, no. So for me, I've gotten this whole energy around Black people. Can we create, and I'll tell you what happened. So my husband and I were at the Jewish Federation Gala in Atlanta. And his company was a huge sponsor, the biggest sponsor, actually. We were the only Black people in the room. And this Jewish guy next to me is like, so what are you doing here? Like, you're the only Black person in the room. Why are you here? And I said, oh, we're the sponsors for the evening. We're the corporate sponsors. And he goes, oh, well, Black and Jews are a lot alike. I said, you think? He said, yeah. He said, let me tell you how the Federation got started. We started a long time ago, whites, we could not, like you, we were oppressed people. We could not go to different, their stores. We couldn't patronize them, this, that, and other. So we created the Federation. The Federation basically started as us creating our own business, our own marketplace, so that we can do business with ourselves because we couldn't go to white places. We couldn't go to white restaurants. We couldn't do business with white people. We were oppressed, like the Black people. He said, we're a lot alike. So the Jewish Federation started, and every Monday we would have meetings, and every Monday, whoever could not make payroll, that we took the bucket. And he said, and that's how we grew our market. And if you guys know, like us and the folks in Atlanta, Jews run Atlanta. I mean, like when you look at the real estate development piece in Atlanta, most of the real money, Jews touching it, and so it's because of the Jewish Federation. And I'm like, why don't we have a Black Federation? I'm like, no, we could learn a lot from you guys. Actually, we're not like you guys. We could learn a lot, because the truth of the matter is, I know folks that'll be like, girl, Ray Ray's little detail business about to go out of, he can't make payroll. You know, he about to go out of business, that restaurant down the street, Keisha's restaurant. We don't say, let's pass a pot and help Keisha or Ray Ray's business continue to succeed. And so for me, it was like, you know, we got to change that. You know, we can create our own Fendi. We can invest in our own stuff. You know, you look at who's selling stuff, the Jay-Z's, the Cardi B's, the whoever. It's our people, it's our faces, the LeBron James. So if we just created our own stuff and had our own marketplace, we could, in essence, take our money from these different revenue streams, these other folks, and say, no, you're going to understand why our lives matters, because we're going to create our own marketplace. And so that's really what I'm at right now, like just really trying to help people understand, like, you know, we have to create our own marketplace. And so that's what I'm all about right now, is just, you know, really pouring into Black-owned businesses. You know, through my role in Invest Atlanta, we give business loans. We gave $22 million during COVID relief funding to small businesses, not loans, grants, free money. You didn't have to pay it back. And we gave $10,000 as technical assistance. So every person who got a $40,000 grant, free money, they also got a $10,000 in technical assistance to help them understand P&Ls, to help them understand how cash flow analysis. How do you get cash flow in so that you won't have to borrow? Giving them real competency so that they can grow their business. That's what it's about. It's not about, Ray Ray getting ready to go to business. It's about what can we do to help support Ray Ray. So with that in mind, I'm talking a little bit about purpose, but I want to ask, our panelists tonight, when you think about, because all of you guys are Black-owned businesses, my trainer here who's coaching and training, my coach, dental practices, my therapist here, you guys all own your own businesses and are very successful. So my question is, do you feel like it's more important to support Black-owned businesses, or do you think it's more important to focus on the brands you love regardless of the business owner and their demographics?
I will say I'm very intentional about my support. Obviously, it is very hard. And I think, Bonika, you and I had a discussion several weeks ago. If you have not seen, I think it's Trigger Warnings, I think that's the name of it, on Netflix with Killer Mike, you should definitely do that, because it speaks a lot to what Bonika was just talking about. It is very difficult to only buy Black. Okay. Very easy to buy white only, but very difficult to buy Black. And so for me, I'm very, very strategic and intentional about doing it, but not only doing that, but also promoting those. It's, again, very easy for us to promote things that are not by us. And I could certainly post a picture any given day and chronicle, like, who did my hair, whose shoes I'm wearing, or what dress I'm wearing. I typically don't do it unless I'm wearing a Black designer or bought it from a Black boutique or got my hair from a Black shop or whatever it is. You know what I mean? So I'm very intentional about when I do say that I'm wearing something or that I got something from somewhere. I typically don't do it unless it's a Black-owned business, just because I want to make sure that they stand out. I think it's imperative for all of us to think about our communities in this way, because historically we haven't had the universal support that we've given to other communities. And it is time, for sure, that we pour into ourselves, as we've seen, unfortunately, over the last couple of years. And, Tiff, you talked about, vision boarding. And as a therapist, for whatever reason, I've just never been into vision boards. I've done one in my lifetime. And it was a nice experience, but for whatever reason, I don't get into the habit of it. But one thing that I remember as we were leading into 2020, that was the thing that we all heard, like 2020, it's going to be 2020 vision. And, you know, great, Oprah did her tour, 2020 was everything, or it was going to be, and then COVID hit. And so no matter what anybody had on a vision board, like things were looking quite different. And, you know, our plans weren't shaking out the way that we thought. What 2020 was, it did make things very clear for us in a lot of ways. It made racial disparities very clear for us. It made the inequities in our systems very clear for us. And in that way, I do appreciate and see at least one gift of 2020 as letting, like, there was a national celebration for Juneteenth last year. I don't remember Black folks being as excited about Juneteenth before 2020. And it was because we had a significant appreciation for what we had been through, not necessarily because of COVID, but because of this racial uprising that happened that we would not have paid attention to as much because of COVID. So because with all of that, I say all of that to say that if not now, when will we be intentional about promoting Black business, about elevating Black business, about supporting Black businesses and giving them the platform that they so richly need, deserve. They need our support. They deserve our support. And we should seek out when we can in our everyday lives, just taking the extra step to look for the Black-owned business before you spend your money somewhere else. Not to say that you don't, that you're 100%, because that is really hard in the world that we live in. But I think making the effort is what we can do, what we have to do.
Absolutely.
So slight different take for me on 2020. And so how do I start this? So I bought my third practice December of 2019 in Midtown Atlanta. January 2020 happened, roaring 20s, which it was. So I have a brand new office at the beginning of 2020. All of my offices hit their 2020 goal for revenue, despite 2020. And what we had to do was very creative, but we made it. And that's why I keep on saying my drive is you can't beat me, because I'm just driven. And so, like, not like you personally, but I'm just saying like whatever I decide to do, I do it. And, so we beat and exceeded revenue goals. And part of that probably was because of Black Lives Matter. I don't know if you guys know about the maternity crisis with more Black women dying at the hands of doctors than in hospitals. And because of the communication barrier, because of the care barrier. So the Black Lives Matter, what happened while crises, I think more people were choosing to go to our facilities because they knew they were Black owned. Not that we advertise that, because I believe that people should go places where they get good service, because for me as a business owner, I do not lean on I'm Black. I lean on I give you good service, and we happen to be Black and be a woman and be women owned, right? So the fact that we've always, for the last 10 years, we have always leaned on that, on the service piece. It was a plus that we were Black and that we cared, that we cared about our people, our culture. We're playing R&B over the radio. That's just what we do. We've always done that, right? Like, I mean, it's not elevator music. It's your playlist when you come to my office, right? So my husband in 2020 bought Mary Max with his friend. Mary Max is a I don't know if y'all know what Mary Max is, but it's in the city, and it's it's been here for 75 years. Him and his friend bought Mary Max in 2020 because the owner with all this going on, wanted to sell to African Americans, but they do not advertise Mary Mac as being Black owned, but it is now. So, you know, we've also solidified before the end of this year a government contract in West Virginia. You know, that is another thing that we've done. So I would say, you know, it's just we had to be creative in how we were going to do it. It's just moving things around and being creative, being able to adapt to the situations, because nothing, including a pandemic, is going to stop what my purpose is. So like that's just what I think, you know.
Yes, that's awesome. That's awesome. And Mary Mac's, the food is amazing. So if you guys are in Atlanta, make sure you check it out. Anybody else want to respond to that? I have one more question before we end. If anybody want to respond to that last question before I go to the last question. No? Okay, so the last question I have for the panelists, and feel free to chime in, is, has the pandemic changed or shifted your priorities? And if so, how?
I think for me, my priorities are my priorities, and the pandemic didn't necessarily shift them. It just gave me more space to live up to what I said my priorities were. So my kids were home, my husband was home, and I had all along been saying, oh, they are priority. Like my husband and kids are priority. And then God was like, okay, bet, let me put you in the house with them for like 9 months and let's see whether or not they're really a priority. So I don't necessarily think my priorities have shifted, because it's always been, you know, child of God, wife, mom, business owner. And it remained that. It just gave me a lot of opportunity to like walk the walk, like do what I say I'm gonna do, be in integrity to what I say my priorities are. And that's what I did.
Anybody else?
I will say that this time has actually given me a helped me to be able to find balance and peace. I know we talked about balance kind of towards the beginning. I've always been someone who has been able to kind of remain very even throughout tumultuous things. And I say that now, knocking on wood, because I don't want the turmoil to come. But I found greater peace outside of my home this year, within the last year. I'm not someone who garden or has gardened a lot. I grew up, my dad always had a garden, but I never went out there to help him. It wasn't something I was interested in. But because I was stuck here, I decided to really explore and develop the outside of my home, because I had time and I wasn't going anywhere. And in doing that, I found peace. And it was something that I never thought I would find, especially in that area. There are a lot of things that bring me joy and peace, but this is something that is never far away from me. Like finding peace and joy on an island somewhere is great. But when you can't go to that, you have to be able to figure it out and find it a little bit closer to home. So for me, that has been a tremendous blessing and a great outlet that I don't know that I would have sought it out or gathered it as quickly had we not been in a pandemic. And so in terms of takeaway for today, I would say find your peace, find that thing that envelops you in peace and gives you kind of a sanctuary or an escape, even if it's just a corner of your home. This past summer, we did a self-care challenge, and one of the ladies she was an interior designer. She came and talked to me about creating an escape room. Now, my escape room is outside. Hers was in her bedroom, and it doesn't even have to be a full room. It can be a closet. It can be a corner, but you need to have, Bonika, you have your wine room there. You need to have, each and every person needs to have their own space. Again, even if it's a corner, it might even just be the shower. it needs to be your space where you can be you, where no one else can come. If you have to put some neon green tape so that nobody says foot in it, have your own books, your own tea, your own cups. It all needs to be for you. I think we all need that space to be able to claim and to recharge. And so for me, that, I mean, that's that on that, period.
Yes. Yes. I love that. I love that. Anybody else want to just talk about that? Because this has been the year. If y'all have not heard the word pivot 1,000 times this year, like, I mean, if I hear pivot one more time, if I drink for every time I hear pivot, I'm going to be falling out on the floor somewhere. But this has been pivot year, right? We keep hearing it. So is any other panelists before we end or conclude that can just talk about how the pandemic has reshaped us, or, you know, and I love the fact, Tiff, that you talked about having your own space. Now, my wine room is not my space.
It should be. It would be mine.
It's my space when I got to get away from Baylor, so he won't come in and ask mommy for some food. But so I didn't want him to come in and interrupt our girls' night. But usually, I'm like you, actually, Lynnette. Like, I like my closet. Like, I like to go in my closet because I have nice carpet in there, and I like to sit on the floor and pray and meditate. And that's my whole. I listen to the Abide every morning, and my son now, he's 2 years old. He said, Abide. Like, he requests to hear the Abide now, y'all. So that's my time, and I love to actually sit on my closet floor and listen to the Abide, and that's my time to have my meditation. So, but I've had to pivot this year, and I think we all have had to pivot in some way. So anyone else want to talk about how they've shifted a bit in the pandemic? And if not, I'll just close us out.
I'll just say this like really, really quick in the last like 90 seconds is I think the pandemic for me and our household, it showed me, I think the pandemic reveals yourself to you. If you are already a driven person, your goals don't matter. 2020, 1920, 2030, like it's still going to be, I'm still going to be the same me. I'm still going to have the same drive. I'm still going to, you know, if anything, I'm going to work even harder because I know I'm up against something that's larger. For me, it showed me that I was taking too much time. It showed me that I took time for granted. It showed me that I took tomorrow as if it were promised and going to come eventually, and I would, quote, get around to it. And if you aren't in a place where you value and prioritize and expect the unexpected, that's what COVID taught me and taught us in our household. My husband and I are both fortunate enough that we make our own schedules. But since now that church is closed, you know, he was home a lot more. And then sometimes he would have to be at church a lot more because, you know, things aren't open all the time. And so, you know, he always says, Bonika, I'm laughing when you said pivot one more time, because he always says, don't panic, pivot. But I think this is our new normal, right? So COVID happened in 2020. We're still reaping the effects in 2021 for the foreseeable future. So I think COVID revealed ourselves to us, and we have to redefine ourselves in this new realm. And what does that look like? So that's what I'll say on that.
Absolutely. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, I have to say that our audience is saying, Dr. Tiff H, your hair is giving life, and Dr. Lynnette, your hair bonnet is giving even more life, and Dr. Tiff R, that your confidence is just amazing. Like the confidence, like I'm not going to lose, is inspiring. And Dr. Krystal, they're asking for your business card in the chat. So you ladies all have been amazing, as I knew you would be. That's why I assembled you, because I knew you guys are all amazing and great. I just want to say before I end, like, you guys talked about having a village. And I will say, when I think about village, I think about each one of you. I think about Operation Sexy Body when I can't get up, when I don't want to work out, when I feel like I'm just gonna stay fat and this stomach is just gonna look like this, and I can have another Krispy Kreme donut. I go to Operation Sexy Body like, no, she's not gonna show me out today again. Thank you. My village. Chris, I don't have to even tell you. Like, on a weekly basis, I am getting coached by Krystal Conner. She is amazing, fantastic. She pours into me. She pushes me. She kicks me in the ass a lot. She is the best coach I've ever had in my life. I highly recommend her. If you have goals, if you need inspiration, if you need motivation, if you need a plan, because some people give you great advice and wonderful theory, and I'm all about theory, but I'm more about application. Like, I can talk theory all damn day, but if you can't give me an application, like, you got to do A and B and C, 1, 2, 3, this is how you're going to get there. And somebody say, you supposed to show me this plan today. Where the hell is it? Like, that's Krystal. So thank you, Krystal. Tiff, Dr. Tiff. I got 2 Dr. Tiffs. The thing about it is you got to have 2 Dr. Tiffs in your life. Like, if you want to be amazing, you got to do it times 2. So that's why I have 2 Dr. Tiffs in my life. Both of these chicks are amazing. One carried her children with me. You know, like, who else is going to be like, hey, girl, let's carry these kids together. That's my Tiff. She carried her babies with me, and we rolled through that thing together. And look at us now. We got our snapback.
We're back. We got it back.
And y'all were both amazing pregnant too.
Sexy body set snapback. Thank
Listen, y'all both looked amazing pregnant too. You both did. Y'all were killing it.
1 week. I need to get pregnant again because I'm more cute pregnant.
No more pregnancy. Did you know that? I didn't like it. I didn't like.
What'd you say, Tiff?
I said I didn't enjoy being pregnant.
No, Tiff had a rough pregnancy, but she
didn't enjoy it.
You didn't even know she was pregnant. First, Lynnette was pregnant. Her baby was due in September, around my birthday. I met her in June. She was pregnant. So I'm like, you ain't eating a cake and drinking the wine. What's wrong with you? We was at Krystal's birthday party. She's like, I'm pregnant. I'm like, oh, you're pregnant. She didn't even look. I'm telling this woman to drink and she was pregnant. She didn't even look pregnant, y'all. So anyway, talking about sexy being pregnant. That's her Operation Sexy Body. She's such an overachiever. But anyway, and last but not least, I cannot tell you, Tiffany Davis Henry. You know,
one of these days, Bonika, we'll talk about what happened that night in the Dominican.
Let's do that in Cancun. But when you talk about village, I absolutely for sure look to you. Just somebody who I can always call and get the real, get it honest, get it raw, get it transparent. Just love you guys. I can't tell you guys how much I love you. And you know, iron sharpens iron. And you guys, all 4 of you are my iron. And I just thank you guys for sharing the night with me and sharing your wisdom and knowledge with these ladies. Our guests are like, this was amazing. So I love you guys. I thank you for being my village.
We thank you too, Bonika.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. This was great.
Job.
Now I'm gonna be a little drunk at this point, but you know.
Now this is what walking in purpose looks like, what you're doing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you, ladies. Everybody, our guests, thank you for coming. Have a great night and thank you for joining us. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.